This is a reflection video presentation based on an audio clip Forest Fire from freesoundeffects.com. So there is a term called Anthropocene, and this is a term to describe the geological age that the nature is seriously influenced by humans, and humans put nature on fire. So if we want to describe our nature as being on fire right now, then lots of human activities are actually being as fuel. So due to the purpose of agriculture and urbanization, deforestation is actually a serious problem and has a big impact on nature. According to the Amazon Conservation Organization's website, our biggest tropical forest, the Amazon rainforest, has lost 185 million arcs since 1978 and 2.5 million arcs annually. So size of about 3,000 of the soccer fields every day in Amazons, which is a big loss. So most of this is due to agriculture expansion for cattle ranching, crop, for example, soil productions, and there's a lot of legal and illegal logging over there. Let alone deforestation is reducing the production of oxygen, and millions of industry around the world are killing our clean air and water by emitting lots of pollutants. So air pollution is always a big issue in China, Beijing. Because of the coal-fired power plants and plenty of the vehicle emissions, Beijing's residents are living under the air with nitrogen dioxide and PM10 concentration that are above WHO standards. So other than air, water is also extremely important to all lives, but water is very easy to be damaged and cause big issues. For example, the Flint water crisis in Michigan, the USA, in the 2014, the contamination in drinking water was caused by the industrial waste, and estimated more than 6,000 children were exposed to drinking water with high level of lead, which might affect their IQ, mental, and also physical health. In the previous slide, we mentioned deforestation and industrial pollution happening around the world. So those are the fuels that speed up climate change. And greenhouse gas emission is also a big cause of climate change. And CO2 is the biggest boss among every greenhouse gases. So human emit CO2 mostly in electricity, heat productions, and also transportation. And deforestation will actually reduce the capacity of planets to absorb CO2, which they keep accumulating. First, though climate change events will trigger extreme weather events, for example, the rising in temperature will cause some strong hurricanes and typhoons become more frequently. Also, when there are more droughts and high temperature, wildfire might be one of the big issues, as climate change will change rainfall patterns, which leads some regions to happen droughts while some flooding. So the image on left was taken in the summer of 2023 in Nova Scotia. According to CBC News, 200 houses were actually damaged only in Shelburne County of Nova Scotia. So climate change and forest fire can actually drive a vicious circle. The rising temperature, changing of weather patterns, and also increasing frequency of the thunderstorm. So these climate change events can actually cause more wildfire. For example, according to Natural Resources Canada, 50% of the wildfire are actually caused by lightning. And so the rising in global temperature will actually increase the evaporation rate, which cause the atmosphere become more humid, and the moisture in clouds and atmosphere is actually the key ingredient for thunderstorms and lightning to form. So the climate change can actually direct and indirectly cause more wildfire. And on the other side, wildfire makes climate change worse. Massive amounts of greenhouse gas were emitted during wildfire. For example, wildfire in Australia, 2019 to 2020, they emitted more than 400 million tons of CO2, which were also caused by lightning strikes and a dry environment. Also, as I mentioned, when large amounts of trees were burned, it reduced the capacity to absorb CO2, which is a double loss and drives into vicious circle. So except for the climate issues, wildfire can also bring big impact to the ecosystem. The most direct impact is the destruction of habitat. Fires will destroy trees, shrubs, which cause wildlife to lose their home and food resources. But interestingly, wildfire can actually contribute to and actually be harmful to the biodiversity at the same time. Of course, the wildfire will kill lots of animals and plants, but meanwhile, this opened up a new space for forest, and this actually can be a new habitat for insects and some small plants, even invasive species. But still, it's not a good thing because the opening space after the wildfire might actually not be an ideal habitat because the soil will face some sort of degradation after wildfire. Organic matters in soil and actually nutrient will lost in the soils being burned. And that's why it takes hundreds of years for a complete secondary section. And also the ashes and the loss of vegetation also disrupt our water cycle, which drives a lot of more issues after the wildfire. So in this slide, I will discuss some of the conservation efforts that can actually help putting out the flame. I will talk about some of the big actions done by countries, governments, or organizations, and talk about some of the successful examples. As we mentioned, deforestation is a big issue happening around the world every single day. And there are some reforestation and even afforestation project actually. A great example here will be the Amazon Rainforest Restoration Project. So in the COP27 climate summit in Egypt, they briefed some of the policy to transform the Amazon rainforest. The most important and the first step will be restoring the rule of law in Brazilian Amazon, as there were lots of illegal activities that harm the rainforest in Brazil. So another example of the conservation we can say is the Paris Agreement in 2015, which made an international treaty on climate change. The most important goal or the objectives of this treaty will be limiting the global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. So also talking about the conservation of animals and plant biodiversity, some ecosystem and areas are actually protected by government or country. An example here would be the Yellowstone National Park. So they actually secure millions of acres of the wildlife habitat. So beside these big actions, there are actually some small actions that everyone can contribute to protect our nature. The first recommendation would be to remember 3 R's in our daily life. Try to reuse some of the material if they are unwanted. Try to recycle them to prevent extraction of raw material. And more importantly, is try to reduce waste or even use of material, which they can actually reduce a lot of energy generated in every process. So another small action will be trying to support sustainable products by buying local and seasonal products. This can actually reduce the transportation emissions because, as we mentioned in the previous slide, transportation actually contribute a lot, about 30% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. Also, by supporting eco-friendly brands and business and products, like providing some biodegradable or plastic-free products, supporting them will actually be a good way to contribute in putting out our flames. So storytelling time in the last slide, I want to share a story of Easter Island. This might actually be a prophecy of the whole human future. Around 380, a group of 70 Polynesian people settled on Easter Island. There were lots of palm tree and easy catching seabirds, so those people thought they have unlimited resources and this is actually a paradise for them. So after couples of generations, a lot of generations, citizens in paradise have nothing to do but to build bigger and bigger statues to compete each other between clans. So when the competition has started, the chain reaction triggered. Wars for competing in resources and damage to the environment all happened in this paradise. So they used up all of the tree resources. The deforestation has made the sea breeze goes directly onto the island, as there were no more palm tree in Easter Island. So without the buffer of the forest, the whole ecosystem on Easter Island has corrupted. All the seabirds gone because they don't want to live here no more. So when the people tried to escape this island, they found that the skills of boat making and the seamanship from their ancestor has been lost, and left alone there were no more trees for them to build boats. And what is left in this paradise are these statues staring at the ocean, and a prophecy for our humans. So if we take everything for granted again and act like we're living in a paradise with unlimited resources, Easter Island might actually just show the ending of the human civilization. So when we took all the resources left in our mother nature, And the time we tried to escape, we just found that we were just another Easter island surrounded by the emptiness of the universe. So this is all I want to share and reflect from the ecology courses, and thank you.